My father's lawyer looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, Savannah, but your name isn't in the will." I will never forget the moment I learned that the man I had believed to be my father for 25 years had completely disinherited me, but the truth I discovered when I called my grandmother changed my life forever. On that cold November morning, just 3 days after my father Theodore Harding's funeral, I found myself in the marble-floored office of the prestigious Thornfield and Associates law firm in Manhattan. I was sitting across from attorney David Thornfield's desk, with my brother Bryce beside me. The smug expression on Bryce's face made me feel uneasy. "Let's begin reading the will," said Mr. Thornfield, adjusting his glasses on his nose. I wasn't prepared to hear my father's final wishes, but I had no idea the shock I was about to experience. "The last will and testament of Theodore Harding," began the lawyer. "In sound mind and body, under no duress, I have prepared this document." The first few paragraphs were standard legalese, but then the lawyer got to the point. "I leave all my property, real estate, bank accounts, company shares, and all other financial assets to my only son, Bryce Harding." My heartbeat slowed. He said, "My only son. What about me?" The lawyer continued. "I am leaving 100% of my company, my penthouse apartment on Park Avenue, my summer house in the Hamptons, and all other real estate to Bryce. Bryce is also the sole beneficiary of my $15 million life insurance policy." At this point, I had to speak up. "Excuse me, Mr. Thornfield, but isn't my name going to be mentioned?" The lawyer looked at me with pity. "I'm sorry, Savannah, but your name isn't in the will. There's just this note." He checked the paper. "I thank Savannah, but she must now chart her own course." The atmosphere in the room suddenly became heavy. I had never experienced such a shock in my 25 years of life. My brother Bryce was trying to suppress a smile, but he couldn't hide the triumph in his eyes. This can't be true," I whispered. "I'm his daughter too. How is this possible?" Mr. Thornfield shrugged. "Mr. Harding updated his will 2 years ago. This is the final version. It's legally binding." Bryce finally spoke up. "Savannah, Dad was never happy with you. You never showed any interest in the business world. You studied art history in college, then started working at that meaningless museum job. Dad was a pragmatic man. He wanted to leave his money to someone who would appreciate it." "Yes." "How can you say that?" I shouted. "He was my father, too." "Yes, but you never made him proud," Bryce said coldly. "I got an MBA, worked at the company, fulfilled his dreams. You, on the other hand, you were just a dreamer." The lawyer interrupted. "Perhaps you can have this conversation another time. For now, the will has been finalized. Bryce, we will meet again next week to discuss the inheritance." As I left the office, my legs were shaking. The cold streets of Manhattan enveloped me, but the coldness inside me was even more intense. For 25 years I had known Theodore Harding as my father. Yes, he could be distant at times, overly focused on his career, but I still thought of him as my father. Now it felt like I had never existed. When I returned to my apartment, the first thing I did was call my grandmother. Rosemary Pemberton, my mother's mother, was 82 years old and lived alone in her small house in New Jersey. My mother Margaret had died of cancer 10 years ago, and my grandmother Rose felt like my only real family connection. I let the phone ring. "Grandma Rose, it's Savannah." "Sweetie, how are you? The funeral must have been very difficult." "Grandma, I need to ask you something. It's very important." She sensed the seriousness in my voice. "Of course, sweetie. What is—" "My father disinherited me. I'm not even mentioned in the will. Is that normal? I mean, does a father just completely cut his daughter out like that?" There was a long silence on the line. It was so long that I thought the connection had been cut. "Grandma? Are you there?" "Yes, sweetie, I'm here. I don't want to talk about this on the phone. Come to me. Come now." "Now? Grandma, it's 8 p.m. "Savannah, I've waited 25 years. I can't wait another night. Please come. I have things to tell you." The urgency in her voice worried me. What kind of things? "Not over the phone. Come here. And sweetie, be prepared. What you're going to learn will change your life." I decided to drive to New Jersey. My head was filled with 1,000 questions. The urgency and fear in Grandma Rose's voice made me uneasy. What had she been waiting for 25 years? What did she know about Theodore Harding? When I arrived at my grandmother's house, I had never seen her like this before. She was usually calm and confident, but now she was clutching her hands together as if trying to make a big decision. "Come inside, sweetie. Sit down over there." She directed me to her old chair. "I'll make you some tea, then we'll talk."
"Grandma, what's going on? You're scaring me."
Rose returned from the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. "Savannah, I have a question for you. Has anyone ever told you that you look like your mother?" "Yes, all the time. Especially my eyes and hair color." "Has anyone ever said you look like Theodore?" I had never thought about that before. "Actually, no. No one has ever told me I look like my father." Rose took a deep breath. "Because you don't look like him, sweetheart. And there's a reason for that." My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "Theodore Harding isn't your father." The world seemed to stop. "What did you say?" "Theodore Harding isn't your biological father, Savannah. He never was." I stood up. The teacup slipped from my hands and spilled onto the carpet. "That's impossible. What are you saying?" "Sit down, sweetheart, and I'll tell you everything. 26 years ago, your mother Margaret married Theodore, but their marriage was never happy. Theodore was a cold man, focused only on his work. Margaret, on the other hand, was a warm, loving woman. Grandma paused, tears welling up in her eyes. "Go on," I whispered. A year after Margaret married Theodore, she was very unhappy. One day she came to me, crying, "Mom, this marriage isn't working. Theodore doesn't care about me, he only cares about his company." What happened then? Then Margaret met someone while working at the museum. His name was William Ashford. He was an art collector, very kind, intelligent, and showed Margaret the attention Theodore had never given her. My heart nearly stopped. William Ashford. I think I've heard that name before. You might have. William was a very famous art collector and philanthropist, but he died suddenly of a heart attack 25 years ago. Grandma, you're telling me that William Ashford was...
I'm telling you, he was your real father.
Yes. The room felt empty. I couldn't breathe. How is this possible? Didn't Theodore know he was my father? He did. When Margaret was pregnant, he told her the truth. Because Margaret was an honest woman and couldn't live with a lie. What did Theodore say? At first he was very angry. He talked about divorce. But then he suddenly changed his mind. Why? Rose's face tensed. Because at that time, William Ashford was a very rich and famous man, and Theodore had always been an opportunist. Instead of divorcing Margaret, he accepted you as his own child. But why? Because the fact that William didn't know you, that he didn't know you were his daughter, suited Theodore's purposes. If William were to die, the truth was slowly sinking in. William's inheritance. William Ashford never married, had no children. At least that's what's known.
If it ever came out that you were his daughter,
I'd be his heir.
Absolutely, and William Ashford left a fortune of $200 million. Theodore knew that. My head was spinning. But Grandma, if Theodore knew that, why did he disinherit me? It doesn't make any sense. A bitter smile appeared on Rose's face. Because, sweetheart, Theodore's plans changed. He was planning to take William's inheritance for himself, and he didn't need you for that. On the contrary, you had become a threat to him. What do you mean? Theodore had been afraid for years that you might discover the truth, and if you found out that you were William's daughter, he wouldn't be able to take anything from him.
Nothing made sense anymore.
Grandma, this is so confusing. How can Theodore take William's inheritance? Because, sweetheart, Rose paused and took a deep breath. Because Theodore has been using William's identity for the last 25... Those last words hit me like a ton of bricks. What? After William died, Theodore stole his identity. He made a deal with William's attorney, had fake documents prepared. William's fortune is now under Theodore's control. I held onto the chair to stay standing. Is this possible? It was much easier 25 years ago, dear. Technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. Theodore was a very intelligent and manipulative man. He controlled William's fortune and grew his own company. If this is true, do you have any proof? Rose stood up, went to the bedroom, and returned with a box. Your mother gave these to me before she died. She said, if Savannah ever needs to know the truth. When I opened the box, my breath caught in my throat. Inside were photographs, letters, and copies of documents. I picked up one photo. It showed my mother with a man I had never seen before. He was handsome, well-mannered, and his eyes looked a lot like mine.
Is this William?
Yes, he's your real father. I started looking through the letters. They were love letters. William had written to my mother. His handwriting was elegant and heavy. One read, Dear Margaret, every moment I spend with you is the most precious moment of my life. I hope that one day we can build a happy home together. Another letter read, Margaret, if you are really pregnant and the child is mine, please know how much I love that child. No matter what happens, that child is my blood. A part of me. My eyes filled with tears. William loved me. He loved you very much, but Theodore cheated on both of you. William never got to see you because Theodore told him that Margaret was in love with someone else. What? Theodore told William that Margaret was only with him for money and was in love with someone else. William was heartbroken and never saw Margaret again. That's so painful. Even when William died, he didn't know you existed. Theodore never told him. There were other documents inside the box. The original copy of William's will, Theodore's forged documents, bank records. Grandma, are these real evidence? Yes, sweetie. Your mother was a very smart woman. She had figured out what Theodore was doing and had started collecting evidence quietly. Why didn't she do anything? Rose's face grew sad. Because Theodore was threatening her. He said if she revealed the truth, he would take you away from her. Margaret didn't want to lose you. Could Theodore really have done that? Back then, Theodore was a very powerful man. He had good lawyers, connections. Margaret was afraid. At that moment, the phone rang. Rose's caregiver. Are you going to answer it? Rose picked up the phone. Hello? I could hear the voice on the other end. It was Bryce. Hello, Aunt Rose. Is Savannah with you? I followed her car. Rose looked at me, worried. Yes, she's here. Please tell her to come home. I need to talk to her tomorrow morning. What are you going to talk about? Household matters. She needs to gather her father's belongings. I'm selling the house. Rose hung up the phone. Did you hear that? Yes, I felt terrible. Grandma, what can I do with this evidence? Sweetheart, you are the sole legal heir of William Ashford. His fortune belongs to you. But Theodore is dead. I have no way to hold him accountable. No, dear, you're wrong. The money Theodore stole is still there. His company's real estate, accounts, it's all yours. But how can I prove it? Rose handed me another document. This is William's real will. It says clearly here, all my assets will go to my unborn child. This will was written 2 months before Theodore's fake will. So it's legally valid? Absolutely. And it's more valid than Theodore's fake will. I examined the document. It was written in William's handwriting, if the child in Margaret's womb is mine, all my fortune will go to that child. Because that child will be my only true heir. Grandma, I need to show these documents to a lawyer. Yes, but not Theodore's lawyer. Someone completely different. Do you know a trustworthy lawyer? Rose smiled. Actually, I do. Sarah Mitchell, your mother's old friend. She's now a very successful estate lawyer, and she hates Theodore. Why does she hate him? Because years ago, Sarah suspected that Theodore was using forged documents. But she couldn't prove it. I realized that this story was getting more complicated by the minute. The life I had lived for 25 years was a lie. The man I called my father was actually a con artist who had stolen my mother's fortune. My real father had died without ever knowing me. Grandma, if I call Sarah tomorrow, will she see me? Of course, sweetie. If you tell her you called, she'll make an appointment right away. I stayed at my grandmother's house that night, but I couldn't sleep. There were 1,000 questions running through my head. If I was really William Ashford's daughter, why hadn't I felt anything until now? Why hadn't I ever suspected anything while growing up in Theodore's house? By morning, I had made up my mind. I would call Sarah Mitchell and show her all the documents. If I was really William's heir, I would get back everything Theodore had stolen. And Bryce, he thought he was so smart, but he would be shocked when he found out the truth. This story wasn't over yet. In fact, it was just beginning. The next morning at 9 a.m., I called Sarah Mitchell's office. Her secretary tried to give me an appointment 2 weeks later, but when I mentioned Rose's name, everything changed. "Miss Mitchell will see you right away," the secretary said. "She's available at 2 p.m. Sarah Mitchell's office was on the 35th floor of a magnificent skyscraper in the heart of Manhattan. When I walked in, I was greeted by a tall, brown-haired woman in her 40s. When I mentioned Theodore, I could see the look of hatred in her eyes that my grandmother had described. "You are definitely Margaret's daughter," she said with a smile. "You look just like her. Your mother was my closest friend." "Thank you. Rose's grandmother told me I needed to talk to you about Theodore." Sarah's expression suddenly hardened. "Theodore Harding. I hate even hearing that man's name. Sit down, tell me what happened." I told her everything I had learned last night. About being removed from the will, my grandmother's explanations, William Ashford being my real father. Sarah's eyes grew wider as she listened. "Did you bring the documents?" she asked. I took the box Rose had given me out of my bag. Sarah began examining the documents one by one. She read William's letters, checked the original will, and examined the forged documents. "Savannah," she said finally, "if these documents are real, you are probably one of the richest women on the East Coast." My heart began to race. "Really?" William Ashford's fortune was $200 million 25 years ago. At today's value, that should be at least $500 million. And Theodore has been investing that money for 25 years. So how much is it worth now? Sarah pulled out a calculator. "A conservative estimate, between $750 million and $1 billion. I was breathless. Is that possible? Not just possible, probable. Theodore was a very smart man. He took William's money and made wise investments. Of course he did. So what do we do now?" Sarah stood up and went to the window. "Now the battle begins. Theodore is dead, but the money he stole is still there. And legally, that money is yours. But how are we going to prove it? We'll start with these documents. But first, we need to submit William's death certificate and his real will to the court. Then we have to prove Theodore's forged documents and identity theft. How long will that take? At least 6 months, maybe a year. Theodore's lawyers will fight, especially Bryce." At that moment, my phone rang. It was Bryce's number. "Should I answer?" I asked Sarah. "Answer it, but be careful. Don't tell him anything yet." "Hello? Savannah, where are you? I can't find you anywhere I've called." "I was busy. What do you want?" "You need to come to your father's house. You'll pack your things. The cleaning crew is coming tomorrow." "Okay, I'll come tonight." "No, come now. I don't want to wait." The urgency in Bryce's voice sounded suspicious. "Why are you in such a hurry?" "Because the house is being sold, and the buyers are coming tomorrow. If there's anything important to you, take it now." I hung up the phone. I turned to Sarah. "I think I need to go to Theodore's house." "Don't go alone. Bryce might be getting suspicious." "Why would he be suspicious?" "We haven't done anything yet." Sarah frowned. "Savannah, if Theodore really pulled off such a big scam, there's no way Bryce wouldn't know about it. He might be in on it, too." That thought scared me. "Do you think Bryce knows about this?" "I don't think so. I'm sure it's impossible for family members not to know about such a large operation that's been going on for 25 years. Then I understood. That was why Bryce was so happy to see me cut out of the inheritance. He already knew the truth. "Sarah, will you come with me?" "Of course. It's important to have a witness in situations like this." When we arrived at Theodore's penthouse on Park Avenue, Bryce greeted us at the door. He was surprised to see Sarah. "Sarah Mitchell. What are you doing here?" "Hello, Bryce. I'm accompanying Savannah. I don't think she needs a lawyer. She's just here to collect her things." Sarah smiled coldly. Every citizen has the right to an attorney. As we entered, I saw Theodore's home for the first time with different eyes. Expensive paintings, antique furniture, valuable collections. Had all of this been purchased with William's money? "Savannah, hurry up," Bryce said. Just take your personal belongings. As I gathered the photos and books I had left in my room, Bryce stood at the door watching me. It was unsettling. Bryce, can I be alone for a moment? No. I need to make sure you don't take anything valuable out of the house. Valuable? These are my childhood belongings. I still need to be careful. Sarah intervened. Bryce, this behavior is very disrespectful. Savannah is your sister. My sister, Bryce corrected coldly. And she has no right to be in this house anymore. At that point, I couldn't take it anymore. Bryce, I lived in this house for 25 years. Wasn't Theodore my father? A strange expression appeared on Bryce's face. Of course he was. But he's gone now, and you weren't in his will. It's that simple. Does that seem fair to you? Life isn't fair, Savannah. Dad was a pragmatic man. He made the right decision. Sarah listened carefully to the conversation, taking note of Bryce's choice of words. While gathering my things, I found a forgotten box in the back of my bedroom closet. Inside were photos from my childhood. In one, my mother and I were at a museum. She looked very happy. I'm taking this photo too, I said. Bryce looked at the photo and frowned. Which museum is this? The Metropolitan. My mother worked there. Yes, I know. My father always told me. Your mother had a lot of friends there. There was an implication in his words. Sarah noticed it too. What do you mean, Bryce? Sarah asked. Nothing. Just that my mom was very social. But the look in his eyes said something else. Bryce knew about my mother's relationship with William. As I gathered my things, Sarah came up to me and whispered, "Watch Bryce's reactions, he definitely knows something." As we left the living room, Theodore's study door was open. The safe inside was visible. It was open and empty. Bryce, where are the documents in the safe? I gave them to the lawyer. Important documents need to be kept in a safe place. What documents? Business documents, contracts, real estate papers. Sarah interrupted. These documents will be needed for the will proceedings. We have the right to access them. Bryce hardened. Who are you to demand access to these documents? I'm Savannah's lawyer, and we have the right to access all documents that belong to all family members in will proceedings. Savannah isn't mentioned in the will, therefore she has no rights. Sarah smiled. That's for the court to decide, not you. These words upset Bryce. The court? What court? The probate court. Savannah is considering contesting the will. Bryce's face changed. He looked worried. On what grounds will she contest it? That's none of your business. You'll find out when the time comes. As we left the house, Bryce followed us to the door. Savannah, don't do something stupid. Your father disinherited you for a reason. Respect his decision. What reason, Bryce? Will you tell me? You never valued the family. You've always chased after your own dreams. Is being an art historian a crime? No, but it's not our family tradition. Dad needed someone to continue the company. Sarah smiled coldly. Interesting. You call it a family tradition. How many years ago did Theodore start the company? This question caught Bryce off guard. What do you mean? I'm just curious. If it's such a long-standing family tradition, the company's history must be important. My father founded the company 30 years ago. 30 years ago? Interesting. Where did he get the capital back then? Bryce's face tensed. Why does that concern you? Just curious. I want to know what kind of man Savannah's father was. As we got off the elevator, Sarah turned to me. Bryce definitely knows something. My questions really bothered him. You noticed too, didn't you? Of course, the date he mentioned 30 years ago is very suspicious. Theodore suddenly became wealthy 5 years after William's death. As we drove back, Sarah explained our plan to me. Tomorrow we'll file a petition in court. We'll contest the will and request that all of Theodore's assets be frozen. Is that possible? If there's suspicion of forgery, the court can freeze the assets. Bryce won't be able to sell or transfer anything. That'll provoke him. We want him to react. When he does, he'll make a mistake. And we'll catch him. That evening, when I returned home, my mind was spinning. Just 48 hours ago, I was Theodore Harding's rejected daughter. Now, I had learned that I could be the heir to William Ashford's billion-dollar fortune. But is this money really mine? And can I actually get it? The next morning, Sarah called. Savannah, we filed the lawsuit. The summons will be served to Bryce. How long will it take for a response? Maximum 48 hours. But I think they'll call much sooner. Sarah was right. By midday, my phone rang. Savannah, have you lost your mind? Bryce was furious. How dare you file a lawsuit? I have rights too, Bryce. What rights? You're not mentioned in the will. That's exactly what I'm contesting. This is ridiculous. You won't get a dime. We'll see. Savannah, listen to me. Drop this case. I'll give you $100,000. Take the money and start your own life. This offer was very suspicious. Why do you want to give me money? Because you're my sister. I want to help you. After your behavior yesterday, this offer is very strange. Think about it. $100,000 isn't a small amount. You could start a new life. Thank you, but no. Savannah, I'm telling you for the last time. Drop this case. What if I don't? Bryce's voice turned threatening. Then you've made your choice. He hung up. I immediately called Sarah. Sarah, Bryce offered me.
What? That's very suspicious. Why would he make such an offer?
I don't know, but the threat in his voice scared me. It's normal to be scared, because he has a lot to lose. If you're really William's heir, everything Bryce has is yours. Sarah, is this dangerous? Will Bryce do something dangerous? I don't know, Savannah, but $1 billion inheritance is at stake. People will do anything for that. That night, while I was alone at home, I kept listening for the sound of the door. Bryce's threat kept running through my mind. The next morning, Sarah called again. Savannah, I have an emergency. Come to my office. What happened? Bryce's lawyer called. There's a court hearing tomorrow. That soon? Yes, and it gets worse. Bryce has filed a lawsuit against you. What kind of lawsuit? Inheritance theft and forgery. My world came crashing down. How is that possible? Bryce is very smart. Instead of attacking, he's defending himself. He's claiming that you forged William's documents. When I arrived at the office, the court documents were on Sarah's desk. Bryce's case was detailed and professionally prepared. It says here that you attempted to steal Theodore's inheritance by using William Ashford's forged documents. That's ridiculous. Yes, but it could look that way to the court. Especially if William's original documents were lost 25 years ago. What do you mean? Sarah looked at me seriously. Savannah, I discovered that William's original will is not in the court records. What? Theodore had the will removed from the court records 25 years ago. Officially, William died without leaving a will. How is that possible? Bribery, threats, forged documents. Theodore had a lot of power. So the documents we have are the only evidence? Yes, and Bryce is claiming they're forged. This was a terrible situation. Not only was I being disinherited, but now I was also being accused of a crime. Sarah, can we win this case? Sarah thought for a long time. It will be difficult, but it's not impossible. We have a chance. What is it? A DNA test. If you are really William's daughter, the DNA will prove it. William is dead. Where will we get his DNA? Sarah smiled. William's art collection is still on display at the Metropolitan Museum. There are pieces he touched. DNA technology has come a long way since 25 years ago. Will that work? It will. And more than that, if you're William's daughter, there might be other relatives from his lineage. We can get DNA from them too. For the first time, I started to feel hopeful. What will we do? We'll go to court tomorrow and request a DNA test. If the court approves it, the truth will come out. What if Bryce objects? He will, but refusing a DNA test looks suspicious. The court usually accepts it. I couldn't sleep that night. Tomorrow I would be in court, and my entire life would change. What if the DNA test proved William wasn't my father? What if Grandma Rose was wrong? But what if I really was William's daughter? Then 25 years of lies would end, and true justice would be served. By morning, I had made up my mind. No matter what happened, I would see this through to the end. Theodore and Bryce's actions would be exposed. The day of the court hearing had arrived. As I entered the courtroom, my stomach churned. I knew I was about to fight the most important battle of my life before Judge Margaret Stevenson. On the right sat Bryce and his lawyer, Jonathan Blackstone. Blackstone was the partner of David Thornfield, Theodore's former lawyer, and one of New York's most renowned estate attorneys. Your Honor, Blackstone began, we have a clear case of forgery before us. Miss Caldwell is using forged documents to steal the estate of the late Theodore Harding. Sarah stood up. Objection, Your Honor. No forgery has been proven yet. On the contrary, my client has discovered her true identity. Judge Stevenson raised his hand. Calm down. Let's hear the claims first. Mr. Blackstone, continue. Your Honor, Theodore Harding raised Savannah Caldwell as his daughter for 25 years. Now this woman suddenly appears and claims to be the daughter of a man we've never heard of named William Ashford. Blackstone began presenting documents. Here is Theodore Harding's official will. Here is Savannah's birth certificate. It lists Theodore Harding as her father. There is no official document to support this woman's claims. Sarah interrupted. Your Honor, we are requesting the original will of William Ashford and DNA evidence. DNA evidence? The judge frowned. William Ashford is dead. Where will you get his DNA? From William Ashford's personal belongings at the Metropolitan Museum and also from hair samples provided by my client's grandmother. Blackstone jumped to his feet. Objection! This is nonsense. It's impossible to find the DNA of someone who died 25 years ago. Your Honor, Sarah said calmly, modern technology makes it possible, and if the opposing side is against this test, it's reasonable to assume they have something to hide. The judge looked thoughtful. Mr. Blackstone, why is your client against the DNA test? Blackstone hesitated. Because it's an unnecessary expense and a waste of time. Or, Sarah said, because they're afraid the test will reveal the truth. At this point, Bryce couldn't hold back and spoke up. Your Honor, this woman is trying to tear our family apart. The judge gave Bryce a stern look. Mr. Harding, it's not your turn to speak. Blackstone tried to calm his client down, but Bryce's outburst had raised suspicions. Your Honor, Sarah continued, a DNA test is the fairest solution to this case. If my client is not William Ashford's daughter, we lose the case. But if she is, then, said the judge, Theodore Harding's 25 years of lies will be exposed. The courtroom fell silent. The judge thought for a long time. I approve the DNA test. Samples will be taken from William Ashford's belongings in the museum and from Miss Caldwell. The results will be ready in a week. Blackstone panicked. Your Honor, this decision is too hasty. We need more time to review the evidence. The evidence has been reviewed for 25 years, Mr. Blackstone. It's time to learn the truth. As we left the courtroom, Bryce grabbed me. Savannah, this is your last chance. Don't take the test. Why are you so scared, Bryce? I'm not scared, I just don't want you to disgrace the family. Sarah intervened. Family? Which family? Are you talking about Theodore's family? Bryce's face turned red. Who are you to interfere? I'm someone seeking the truth. And you know a lot, Bryce. I don't know anything. Then there's no reason to be afraid of the DNA test, Sarah said with a smile. That evening, I called Grandma Rose. Grandma, they're going to take a DNA sample tomorrow. I'm scared. Why are you scared, sweetheart? What if William isn't my father? What if you're wrong? Rose's voice was very clear. Savannah, I'm 82 years old. In 82 years, I've never been this certain about anything. You are William's daughter. How can you be so sure? Because, sweetheart, it's not just your mother's words. You look so much like William. I see your hands, they're his hands. I see your eyes, they're his eyes. Even the way you talk is just like him. Really? Your mother showed me photos of William when she was in her last month of pregnancy. You're the exact copy of William in that photo. That reassured me, but I was still worried. The next day, we were looking at William's personal collection at the Metropolitan Museum. Dr. Catherine Foster, the museum director, was helping us. The works donated by William Ashford are here, said Dr. Foster. There are paintings, sculptures, and books that he personally touched. Sarah and I examined William's favorite book. It was called The Art of the Renaissance, and the pages were filled with handwritten notes. Are these notes in William's handwriting? I asked. Yes. He had a very distinctive handwriting. The pages of the book contained William's fingerprints and hair strands and skin particles that could be DNA samples. The lab technician carefully collected the samples. When will the results be ready? Sarah asked. 5 days, the technician replied. But this is a very old sample, so it may not give definitive results. What if it doesn't? Then we'll look for other ways. After giving a blood sample, I returned home. Waiting 5 days seemed like an eternity. On the 3rd day, Sarah called. Savannah, we have an emergency. What happened? Bryce Theodore sold his house. How is that possible? Didn't the court freeze his assets?
Yes, but Bryce is very smart. He sold the house suddenly and we lost track of the money.
This was terrible news. What are we going to do? We're filing an emergency court order. We'll freeze all of Bryce's financial transactions. Is that possible? Yes, until the DNA results come in. At the emergency court hearing, Judge Stevenson was very angry. Mr. Harding, weren't you warned about the property sale? Bryce looked worried. Your Honor, this house was my property. I had the right to sell it. While the DNA test is ongoing, this sale is suspicious, said the judge. All your financial transactions will be frozen. Blackstone intervened. Your Honor, my client will face financial hardship. Then hope the DNA test is completed quickly. As we left the courtroom, Bryce was furious. He approached me. You ruined me. I'm just looking for the truth. The truth? The truth is that you were never part of our family. Which family, Bryce? Theodore's family. Who is Theodore? This question deeply troubled Bryce. He walked away without answering. On the 4th day, Grandmother Rose called me. Sweetheart, there's something else I need to tell you.
What?
William has a cousin. His name is Harrison Ashford. He's also an art collector and lives in Boston. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because there were issues between Harrison and William, but now we can also get a sample from him for the DNA test. This was wonderful news. Harrison Ashford's DNA could provide definitive results. I called Sarah. Sarah, we found William's cousin Harrison Ashford. Great, I'll call him right away. Harrison Ashford was very surprised on the phone. William has a daughter? Is that possible? Mr. Ashford, this is very important. Can you provide a DNA sample? Of course. If William has a daughter, I'd like to meet her. On the 5th day, the lab called. The results are in. Sarah and I rushed to the lab. Technician Dr. Michael Rodriguez greeted us. Dr. Rodriguez, how are the results? Very interesting results. First, the samples we took from William Ashford's belongings at the museum. My heart was racing. We found a 99.7% father-daughter match between William Ashford's DNA and Savannah Caldwell's DNA. The world stopped.
What did you say?
Savannah Caldwell is William Ashford's biological daughter. Sarah shouted, Yes, I knew it. But Dr. Rodriguez continued. However, the results with Harrison Ashford are even more interesting. What do you mean? We also detected an 87% kinship between Harrison Ashford and Savannah. This confirms that Harrison is indeed William's cousin. So I'm definitely William's daughter? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. At that moment, I felt like 25 years of lies had come to an end. Theodore Harding wasn't my father. William Ashford was my real father. What about the results for Theodore? We couldn't find Theodore Harding's DNA, but there's no genetic link between you two. Sarah immediately called the court. Judge Stevenson, the DNA results are in. Savannah Caldwell is indeed William Ashford's daughter. 6 hours later, we were in an emergency court hearing. Judge Stevenson was reviewing the DNA reports. Mr. Blackstone, does your client have any objections to these results? Blackstone looked very pale. Bryce seemed as if the world had come crashing down on him. Your Honor, we have doubts about the accuracy of these results. This is one of the most reputable DNA laboratories in the United States. The results are 99.7% accurate. Sarah stood up. Your Honor, the truth is now clear. Savannah Caldwell is William Ashford's daughter, and Theodore Harding has been stealing his fortune for 25 years. Objection, Blackstone shouted. There's no proof of forgery. No proof, Sarah smiled. I present William Ashford's real will. Sarah presented the original will given to her by her grandmother Rose to the court. In this document, William Ashford clearly states all my assets shall go to the child in Margaret's womb. The judge examined the document. This document is dated 2 months before the forged will presented by Theodore Harding. Yes, Your Honor. Theodore Harding had forged documents prepared after William's death and stole his fortune. Bryce couldn't hold back. These documents are forged. My father didn't steal anything. The judge glared at Bryce. Mr. Harding, do you have any knowledge that your father used William Ashford's identity? I don't know anything. Really, Sarah interrupted. Then can you explain where Theodore's fortune suddenly came from 30 years ago? Bryce remained silent. The judge announced his decision. Based on the DNA tests and the documents presented, I rule that Savannah Caldwell is the legal heir of William Ashford. The courtroom echoed. Sarah hugged me. We won! All of Theodore Harding's assets will be returned to Savannah Caldwell as they were stolen from William Ashford. Blackstone stood up. Your Honor, we will appeal this decision. You are free to appeal, but the DNA test is conclusive. Bryce buried his face in his hands. 25 years of lies had come to an end. As we left the courtroom, Harrison Ashford was waiting for me. He was a 68-year-old man with white hair and a refined demeanor. Savannah, I'm so glad to meet you. You remind me so much of William. Thank you, Mr. Ashford. Call me Harrison. We're family now. I hugged him. For the first time, I was meeting someone from my real family. I'm so sorry I never got to know William, Harrison said, but I'm so happy to have met his daughter. Can you tell me about William? Of course. He was a wonderful man. He loved art, he loved people, and he was very honest. Can you understand how Theodore could have betrayed him? Harrison's face fell. William was a very trustworthy man. He never would have thought Theodore was such a fraud. That evening, I called Grandma Rose. Grandma, we won. The DNA test proved that William was my father. I knew it, sweetheart, I knew it. Your mother would be so happy. What happens now? Now true justice will be served, and you'll get William's fortune. That's a lot of money. I don't know what to do. You'll do what William would have wanted. He loved art and culture. Follow in his footsteps. The next day, Sarah called. Savannah, the list of Theodore's assets is ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. $1.2 billion. I gasped. How much? $1.2 billion. Theodore invested William's money very well. Is this real? It's real. You're a billionaire now, Savannah. After the call, Harrison Ashford called. Savannah, would you like to see William's old office? Of course. William's office was in Manhattan, in a very elegant building. When Harrison let me in, I gasped. The walls were covered with works of art. There were still old photographs on his desk. In one of them, my mother was with him. I didn't know about this photo, I said. William loved this photo. He always kept it on his desk. When we opened the desk drawer, I found a letter. It was addressed to Margaret. Can I read this letter?
Of course. This place is yours now.
I opened the letter. It was written in William's handwriting. Dear Margaret, if you are reading this letter, then something has gone wrong. I want you to know how much I loved you and our baby. No matter what happens, I want that child to be happy throughout his life. I'm leaving him everything I have. But it's not about the money, it's about love. I hope he loves art, beauty, and humanity. With all my love, William. My eyes filled with tears. My real father had loved me. Even though he never knew me, he loved me. Harrison squeezed my hand. William was a good man. You are his greatest legacy. That night I sat at home, thinking about everything that had happened. For 25 years I had been Theodore Harding's rejected daughter. Now I was William Ashford's beloved daughter. And most importantly, I knew the truth. The phone rang. It was Sarah.
Savannah, the latest news. Bryce confessed Theodore's real plan.
What plan? Theodore didn't just steal William's money. He was going to disown you when you turned 18.
What?
Yes, you would have had no legal connection to him. That way William's fortune would have remained entirely under his control. That's so heartbreaking. But it doesn't matter now. You won, Savannah. The truth has prevailed. She was right. 25 years of lies were over. Theodore's plans had been foiled. William's justice had been served. And I finally knew my true identity. Savannah Ashford, William's daughter. 2 weeks after the DNA results were revealed, my life had completely changed. I was no longer living in my small studio apartment, but in William's penthouse with a view of Central Park. But this sudden change wasn't easy. Every morning when I woke up, it felt like I was dreaming. Sarah Mitchell wasn't just my lawyer, she had become my trusted advisor. Savannah, with such a large fortune comes great responsibility, she had said that morning. You need to make the best use of William's legacy. But I don't know anything, Sarah. Just 2 weeks ago, I was an art historian working at a museum for $40,000 a year. And now you're the owner of a $1.2 billion fortune. But remember, it's not just money. You've also inherited William's philosophy on life. As I looked through William's personal belongings, I began to understand what kind of person he was. In his diary, he wrote, "True wealth is achieved by supporting art, culture, and humanity. Money is only a means to achieve these goals." Harrison Ashford also visited frequently. William was a very special person, he said. He didn't use his money just for himself. He always wanted to help others. Can you tell me about his philanthropic projects? Sure. William financed 12 art schools. He also established museum education programs for poor children. This information really impressed me. William was not only a wealthy collector, but also a person who contributed to society. In the 3rd week, Michael Thornfield, the son of David Thornfield, visited me. Unlike his father David, Michael was an honest lawyer. Savannah, my father is very sorry about his agreement with Theodore. He wants to apologize to you. Did your father know that Theodore was a forger? Michael hesitated. He suspected it, but he couldn't prove it. Theodore was a very manipulative man. What should we do now? My father is giving you all the information he has about Theodore's forged documents. These documents detail Theodore's 25-year plan. The documents Michael brought were shocking. Theodore had not only stolen William's money, but had also constantly threatened my mother, Margaret. The documents included letters my mother had written to Theodore. "Theodore, please don't hurt Savannah. I'll accept anything, but don't touch her." My eyes filled with tears. My mother had remained silent for 25 years to protect me. "Theodore had threatened your mother very badly," Michael said. "He said that if she revealed the truth, he would take you away from her." What could my mother have done? Nothing. At that time, Theodore was very powerful. He had both money and connections. That evening, I visited my grandmother, Rose. "Grandma, did you know how much my mother was afraid of Theodore?" Rose remained silent for a long time. "I knew, dear. Margaret told me everything." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you were too young. And Margaret had told me to wait until you were 20. "Why 20? "Because she knew you'd be on your own by then, and you'd be ready to hear the truth." I understood how thoughtful my mother had been. She had planned everything. In the 4th week, I got an unexpected call from Bryce. "Savannah, can I talk to you?" "What do we need to talk about, Bryce?" "Please, it's important." I let him into William's office. Bryce had changed a lot. He didn't have his usual proud demeanor. Instead, he looked very tired and regretful. "Savannah, I want to apologize." "What are you apologizing for?" "For everything. For treating you badly for 25 years. For knowing about Theodore's plans." This confession didn't surprise me. "How long have you known?" "Since I was 18. Theodore told me everything." "And you never said anything?" Bryce lowered his head. "Theodore told me, if you reveal this secret, both you and Savannah will be harmed. I was afraid." "You were afraid? Was that the reason you treated me badly for 25 years? "Yes. Theodore wanted me to keep my distance from you. He said if you get too close to her, she might discover the secrets." This explanation was painful, but also made sense. "Bryce, what do you want to do now?" "I don't know. I have no money, no home, no job. Everything Theodore left behind was actually yours." "So what are you going to do now?" Bryce thought for a long time. "Maybe I'll start over. A clean slate." "That's a good idea." Savannah, there's something else I want to say. You were never part of our family, but you're a much better person than any of us. Those words surprised me. What do you mean? Theodore and I always thought about money and power. You thought about art, beauty, humanity. You were William's daughter. That evening, Harrison and I had dinner. I talked to Bryce. He apologized. That's a good start, but what matters most is what you do now. What should I do? Make William's dream come true. He always wanted to start an art foundation. An art foundation? Yes, a foundation that will support young artists develop museum education programs and make art accessible to everyone. This idea excited me. That's a wonderful idea. William had even made plans for it. They're still in his office. The next day, I found those plans in William's office. The Ashford Art Foundation project was very detailed. William wanted to provide art education to young people, make museums more accessible, and provide art supplies to underprivileged children. I called Sarah. Sarah, I found William's Art Foundation project. I want to bring it to life. Great idea. How much budget will you allocate? $500 million. Sarah was surprised. That's a huge amount. That was William's dream. And I will make his dream come true. In the 5th week, the foundation establishment process began. We gathered the best lawyers, education experts, and art historians. The project took shape very quickly. The foundation, named the Ashford Art Foundation, launched its first project, opening 5 art studios in different neighborhoods of New York City. These studios would provide free art education to underprivileged children. At the foundation's opening ceremony, I spoke. This foundation is established in memory of my father, William Ashford. He believed that art belongs to everyone. Today, we are realizing his dream. Harrison, Sarah, grandmother Rose, and a surprise guest, Bryce, were present at the ceremony. Bryce, thank you for coming. Savannah, you are doing a wonderful thing. William would be very proud of you. The foundation's first programs began in the 6th week. 200 children between the ages of 8 and 16 participated in art workshops. Watching these children and seeing the joy on their faces was very rewarding. One day, when I visited one of the workshops, a 12-year-old girl named Emma approached me. Are you really a billionaire? I smiled. Yes, I am. Then why are you spending time with us here? Because there are other things in life that are just as important as money. Art, friendship, happiness. Emma looked at me thoughtfully. My father was an artist too, but we struggled a lot financially.
You can be an artist too. And I'll help you.
I will never forget the glimmer of hope in Emma's eyes that day. In the 7th week, I had a big surprise. Dr. Catherine Foster, the director of the Metropolitan Museum, called me. Savannah, we have an offer for you.
What kind of offer?
We're opening a new section at the museum, the William Ashford Memorial Wing. This section will be dedicated to children's education programs. That's wonderful. But even better, we want you to be the director of this section. This offer surprised me greatly. Me? But I'm just an art historian. No, Savannah, you are so much more than that. You are a visionary. William's legacy will be in the safest hands. I accepted the offer. Now I was both the president of the foundation and the director of the museum's new wing. In the 8th week, Bryce announced that he had found a new job. Savannah, I started working at a small art gallery. An art gallery? You never cared about art. People change. My time with you taught me the value of art. That's wonderful, Bryce. I'm really happy. Savannah, there's one last thing I want to say. You were never Theodore's daughter. You were always William's daughter. And that was very clear. His words moved me. In the 9th week, Harrison and I visited William's grave. The headstone read, William Ashford, lover of art, servant of humanity. Harrison, what do you think William would think of this? He would be very proud. You are fulfilling his greatest dream. As I placed flowers on the grave, I spoke to William. Father, we never got to know you, but I am fulfilling your dreams. I hope you are proud. At that moment, the wind blew and the flowers danced. It was as if William was responding. In the 10th week, we organized the foundation's first major event, Young Artists Exhibition. The works of children who had been trained in our workshops were displayed. Emma's portrait was very impressive. Who did you draw? I asked. I drew you because you're my hero. My eyes filled with tears. I'm not a hero, Emma. I'm just a lucky man. No, you are a hero, because you could have used your money for yourself, but you used it for us. That evening we talked with Harrison. We've accomplished everything William planned, he said. No, Harrison, our work isn't done yet. What do you mean? William didn't just plan for New York, he wanted projects across the country, even worldwide. Harrison smiled. You're his real daughter, you share his vision.
In the 11th week, we had a long conversation with Grandma Rose.
Grandma, did my mother foresee all of this?
Of course, dear.
Margaret was very smart. She knew you would one day learn the truth and use William's legacy in the best way possible. I feel her presence. She's always with you. I see your mother's influence in everything you do. Grandma, the foundation is a success. We've reached 500 children so far. This is just the beginning, sweetheart. You'll accomplish even greater things. In the 12th week, Dr. Foster brought some exciting news. Savannah, the William Ashford Memorial Wing, is ready for the opening. And we have a surprise. What kind of surprise? We've brought William's personal collection here. Now the public can see his love for art up close. The opening day was very emotional. There were hundreds of people in the hall. In my speech I said, I never got to know my father, William Ashford, but I am living his legacy. He believed that art belongs to everyone. Today, his dream is coming true. After my speech, there was a standing ovation. Harrison came over to me. William would have been so proud. He's here, Harrison. I can feel him. By the 13th week, the foundation began to gain international recognition. BBC, CNN, and the New York Times reported on the foundation's success. Headlines like Young Heiress Uses Billion-Dollar Fortune to Transform Art Education garnered global attention. But what mattered most to me was the joy on the children's faces. In the 14th week, I received a call from Paris. It was the director of the Louvre Museum. Miss Ashford, we would like to make you an offer. What kind of offer? The European branch of the Ashford Art Foundation. It will be based in Paris. This was an amazing opportunity. William's vision was spreading worldwide. In the 15th week, Sarah and I were discussing the foundation's future plans. Savannah, you've done an incredible job. We reached 1,000 children in 15 weeks. This is just the beginning, Sarah. My goal is to reach 100,000 children. 100,000? That's very ambitious. William was an ambitious man. I'm his daughter. In the 16th week, we received good news from Emma. She had won first place in an art contest. Savannah, I'm going to use the prize money to help my mother. Emma, you're so talented. I'll give you a scholarship to an art university. Really? Really, you're going to be a great artist. I hugged Emma. This was why I was living. In the 17th week, Theodore's former business partner, Robert Manning, visited me. Savannah, I'm sorry for what Theodore did. Did you know about it too? I suspected it, but I couldn't prove it. Theodore was very manipulative. What are you going to do now? We're starting the company over with a clean slate, and we want to make a donation to your foundation. That's very kind of you. No, it's justice. In the 18th week, Bryce's gallery was very successful. Savannah, I'm opening my first exhibition. Will you come? Of course I'll come. The pieces Bryce had chosen for the exhibition were very impressive. Bryce, you've really changed. You taught me the value of art. You taught me what Theodore never could. I didn't teach you anything. You just started listening to your inner voice. In the 19th week, we celebrated Grandma Rose's 83rd birthday. Grandma, how's your health? I'm very well, dear. Seeing you so happy keeps me alive. Grandma, what would my mother think right now? She would be very proud. You are also fulfilling her dreams. What were my mother's dreams? For art to reach every child, you are doing that. In the 20th week, we celebrated the first anniversary of the foundation. The numbers we achieved in 1 year were incredible. We opened 50 art workshops. We reached 2,000 children. We awarded scholarships to 100 young artists. We launched 5 museum programs. We opened branches in 3 countries. In my celebration speech, I said, this is just the first year. Our goal is to reach 50,000 children in the next 5 years. Harrison stood up. William's spirit is here. He would be so proud. In the 21st week, Emma passed her university entrance exams. Savannah, I got into Harvard's art department. Emma, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. It's all thanks to you. You changed my life. No, Emma, you earned it with your own talent. I just provided the opportunity. In the 22nd week, we visited the house where Harrison and William were born. It was a small but charming house in Boston. William grew up here, said Harrison. They were a very modest family. How did he become so wealthy? He was hardworking and intelligent, but what really mattered was how he used his money. How did he use it? Always for others. He never spent money on himself. I had inherited that trait from him. In the 23rd week, Bryce's gallery had become very famous. Savannah, the New York Times wrote an article about me. What did they say? The story of how the son of a former billionaire became an art gallery owner. That's wonderful, Bryce. They told your real story. Yes, and they mentioned you in the article. You were my inspiration. This made me very happy. In the 24th week, Sarah and I were making plans for next year. Savannah, the foundation has been very successful. Now you can plan bigger projects. Like what? How about starting an art university? William Ashford Art University? That's an amazing idea. It could be the best art university in the world. This project excited me very much. In the 25th week, we had our final conversation with Grandmother Rose. Grandmother, thank you so much for guiding me on this journey. I didn't do anything, dear. You were already on the right path.
Was it worth waiting 25 years?
Absolutely. Because now you're ready. William's legacy is in the safest hands. Grandma, you're so old. I know, sweetie, but I'm at peace now. You've made William's dreams come true. 6 months later, Grandma Rose passed away peacefully in her sleep. At her funeral, I said the following. Grandmother Rose wasn't just my mother's mother. She was also the guardian of the truth. She kept the secret for 25 years and told me when the time was right. A year later, we laid the foundation for William Ashford University of the Arts. Emma was among the first students. Savannah, this university will change the world, Emma said. I hope so. That's the kind of world William envisioned. 2 years later, Bryce got married. At his wedding, I said, Bryce, you've become a much better person since you found your true self. I could have always been this way, but I was influenced by Theodore. He taught me true value. 3 years later, the Ashford Art Foundation had reached 50,000 children worldwide. We had achieved our goal. 5 years later, Emma graduated from Harvard and began working at the foundation. Savannah, I want to be like you. Emma, you will be much better than me, because you learned the truth at a younger age. Today, 6 years after learning about Theodore's will, I was walking in Central Park. William's diary was with me. I was reading the last page. If I ever have a daughter, I want to teach her this. True value isn't in money, it's in the good you do for others. I hope she loves art, beauty, and humanity. I closed the diary and looked up at the sky. Father, I have fulfilled your dreams. I hope you are proud. At that moment, the wind blew and the leaves danced. I felt William's presence. I was no longer just Savannah Caldwell. I was Savannah Ashford, William's daughter, and the one who carries on his legacy. 25 years of lies had come to an end. True justice had been served, and I was living my own true story. Theodore had disinherited me, but there was one thing he didn't realize. The true inheritance wasn't money. The true inheritance was love, values, and serving humanity. And this inheritance was just the beginning for me. William's dreams would continue to live on through me. Because those who possess the true inheritance can never be defeated. The story ended here, but William's legacy would continue forever.